So what are we looking at here?
We're looking at the guest bedroom, middle bedroom of the third floor, which would be the northeast corner of the middle third floor bedroom.
What's that he's pulling off?
That's the exterior sheathing. The zip ply is what it's called. Stucco was removed yesterday, and now we're removing the sheathing.
Now what are we noticing as we remove that product?
Well, this is our lumber here. This is our structural studs and essentially the structural framing of the house. This is what it should look like. And you can see as we get closer to the exterior wall, where the wood's been in contact with the wet OSB, it's degraded.
Okay, so that's what it should look like. And that's what it does look like.
Correct. I can't really comment on how much structurally it's been compromised or if it's been compromised structurally, but there's a structural engineer that's involved in the program, in the project, that'll make that determination.
But there's no question that it's wet.
Certainly.
Okay.
So we can continue to remove. So this again is more structural framing, studs. We can kind of see the growth that's on this. And it's for as long as this problem's been going on, all of this structural wood has been in contact with the wet OSB.
Well, wet rot is the issue. I mean, this is
So what is your name, first of all?
Jerry Marin.
Okay, sir, what do you do for a living?
I'm a structural engineer specializing in renovation and restoration.
Okay. All right, so you've just gotten here. This has just been opened up. What are you observing?
We got a lot of wet rot. I mean, it's the problem is how far does it go, and what can we do to dry the wood out versus do we have to replace it? And we need to do some more exploring. Really.
So what floor are we on right now?
We're on the second floor, second habitable floor over the garage.
Third.
So this is the kitchen, I believe? Or no, this is the bedroom.
Second living level over the garage.
Yeah, second
Third
living
floor off the grade.
Off a grade, yeah. Well, this is the bedroom level, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So what's going to define whether we can dry it out and reuse the structural stuff in place, or take it out? What defines that?
Actually, we need to deal with the disaster cleanup folks, the folks who do the mold remediation.
Okay.
Are the ones who really make that call. My attitude is, when in doubt, tear it out.
Okay.
Because if we cover this up and we haven't stopped the rotting mechanism, we're going to cover it up and it's going to continue to rot.
And the reason the contamination people are the ones that do that, do they the ones that sort of ascertain the microbes that are involved?
Correct.
So that's what's happening, is the microbe is what's killing the wood or destroying the wood.
Yeah, it's a biological process. Once it starts, even though you've dried the wood out, it will continue to go on unless you've killed those microbes.
And so that's why it's better safe than sorry. Just take the stuff out when in doubt.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Okay, so what are we observing over here?
All the zip wall, which is basically lined OSB, oriented strand board, has gotten wet. It's lost all its structural integrity. The problem is, in this condition, it's a sponge and it's been sitting up against the structural lumber. And the question is the structural lumber rotted to the point that we can salvage it?
Hey Ken, so can you demonstrate on here where the pilaster was installed?
Right here in the corner, there was a pilaster, approximately 24 inch by 24 inch, which was overframed on top of the 4x4 wood post, which the top of is here. We've been cut off when we were taking them off. So this 4x4 wood post came up through, and then the 24 inch by 24 inch pilaster, which the railings then attached to, was framed over. And what appears to have happened is that, or what did happen was that was framed prior to the roofing being performed, which left two sides in this instance where there was no flashing, and that's where no waterproofing was here, and that's primarily where the water infiltrated. It was able to come in at the front of every pilaster, and in the instances where the pilasters are at the corners, like this one, of course, it had 2 entry spots, being the 2 outer edges of the pilaster.
Okay, so we were just talking about, I guess there's at least 2 issues that we're looking at. One is the microbial potential for additional deterioration of the wood by the microbes consuming the wood, but a preliminary or parallel question is whether or not the wood in its current condition actually has structural integrity, right?
Correct. And you know, it's kind of easy to determine. This nail is still relatively hard to pull out. So if we've lost anything, and it's
Right.
the trouble is if we can't stop the microbial progression, we're going to lose it. This piece here, actually, this is better than I thought, but that's not. That's gone.
And I'll show.
Is that one of those engineered beams?
No, that's just a little.
And it's solid. It's not engineered. It is actual. This is
solid
lumber.
piece of
So
wood.
this is a solid piece of wood.
Except it's
So
not.
so even though it's pulling apart as if it was some sort of strand material, this is what Jerry's referring to. That when we see damage like this, then that certainly is.
There's no salvaging of that.
And the problem is at this point, the microbes have penetrated to the wood so deep that I'd be concerned
Even if you could dry it out and it looked okay,
if if we've got the surface dried, we don't know that we got the center.
and so we're focusing on this particular spot because it's been opened up, but this same issue and those same pilasters, those are existent all the way down the face of this building. Isn't that correct?
There's 11 of them in total.
11 of them. And really, there's water intrusion that has appeared throughout the entire span of this face. Correct, Ken?
Correct.
That's correct.
Because
On the interior,
because the problem is that it came in 11 spaces, but
it then disperses.
dealt it out from that point.
Hey, Ken, can you describe what is in place currently with regard to the roof and how are we keeping water from coming in right now?
Well, right now,
On the top.
Sure. After the pilasters were removed, we had our roofer come out and do temporary repairs over the pilasters because when the pilasters were removed, there is no roofing underneath that pilaster, so we just had to do a temp repair over each one. And now that we've gotten into actually removing the exterior sheathing, we're essentially now opening the building up from the interior to the exterior, so at the end of every day, we're buttoning it up with plastic. The roof has not been replaced, but the conditions where it was letting water in have been temporarily repaired.
So to the extent someone wanted to try to opine that there was some other cause for water penetration, the bottom line is once the pilasters were temporarily, removed and then the water penetration area remediated, the water has stopped coming in the house.
That's correct.
And the balance of the roof up here is what was installed originally?
That's correct. There was the original contractor installed a tile floor. That tile floor has been removed. It was removed by that original contractor several months ago. But other than that, the roof is the same way that he roofed it.
So we've just now opened this up. And so this is another section then that that exterior was removed. Was this done yesterday?
Yes, it was done yesterday, and this is in the location of the laundry room and master bedroom on the 3rd floor. So the most significant damage is directly underneath the pilasters, but it has, there's only about 6 feet in between each pilaster. So by the time the damage peters out from one, it's then picking up from the next pilaster. So by and large,
this is a pilaster location. Right
this
here?
is a pilaster location right here. Center or edge?
Or whatever,
Here's edge.
just throwing it up to give you.
Okay. That's
Well-
72 inches.
This is 80 inches.
80 inches.
But if you look, the only thing that's not showing any damage is this one in the center. The rest are showing some damage to
So
some.
that's the center from those two pilasters, and these others are showing clear water damage.
And as you get closer to the pilaster,
So that has not been hacked at. That's exactly as it was when it came apart.
Right. When the
You pulled the-
sheathing was removed, this was the condition of the lumber behind it. And this is at the laundry room. And this is the laundry room window.
a 2-ply engineered beam originally was 3-ply. They've had to remove the outside ply because it was rotted. It looks.
So what does it mean, a 3-ply engineered beam?
Well, this is an engineered beam. It's not a rough cut lumber. It's something they took the strands and built them up with glue. It's equivalent of plywood, except in lumber shapes. 3-ply is that this is basically a 2-by beam, and they stack 3 of them together to get a 6-inch wide beam finished. They've had to take the outside ply off because it was in such bad condition that it was just not worth saving. Just pulled it off. We can rebuild this beam by just putting another ply on the face, but we have to fasten it. Because we're working from one side, we're going to have to use lag bolts. It's doable. It's straightforward. It just takes time, money, energy, sweat.
Okay. So now we were talking about the 3-ply beam that way a little bit, and now is this the second
This is the inner ply.
inner ply?
And if this is all the damage, we can salvage this beam. But again, it's back to the old thing. Can we get the microbial growth out of here?
Okay.
Because if we go and sandwich another beam on the face of this, those microbes are just going to sit there and eat the wood and grow. And we're going to cover it all up, and nobody's going to know about it until we have another horror show.
Okay. So explain to me again. If our whole perimeter,
Yeah, well, we're on the west elevation here, okay, and you can see there's 2 locations, actually 3. One pilaster is still in place at the end, and then there's a pilaster in the middle, and a third pilaster on this wall here, and it's interrupted at the pilaster locations. Our drip edge and our roofing material was interrupted because it didn't continue underneath the pilaster. So what I was explaining is that if this drip edge had continued along our entire perimeter, then our problem wouldn't exist.
because water would have
Water-
flowed onto the waterproofing material over the drip edge, then down the side of the wall.
Right, and this would be where the water would be running. In the condition that we had here, water was running right inside the pilaster, or under the pilaster, or running down the pilaster, and there was nothing to keep it from running right down inside the interior portion of the wall. And so this zip ply or zip board, which is our OSB sheathing, exterior wall sheathing, it's intended to be a waterproof barrier from the exterior Once it's
not
wet on
intended
the
to be
in,
attacked from the top of water. Water's not supposed to come at it from the top.
correct. Once water's running down the inside of the wall, the game over. It's not going to perform as it was intended to, because it's not intended to resist water from its unfinished side.
Now explain to me that the notion that had the pilaster, instead of being installed right at the very edge, had it been inset, go through that progression. You were saying it had it been inset, then the roofer would have had an opportunity potentially to then install waterproofing around the exterior of it and then sheathe it or flash it appropriately on this back side.
That's exactly correct.
But then that begs the question of, well, when the roofer came and saw that he couldn't flash these back sides, why would he just continue to lay down waterproofing and proceed without calling it to someone's attention?
Well, that's exactly what you would expect and
That's what you're
reasonably
supposed to-
expect that your
that's what
that
you're
your
supposed to
roofer
do.
would stop and say, there's a condition I don't think we should move forward on.
Okay.
And the GC should then put things back in the correct sequencing.
Okay.
So this is a 2x4, Jim, that's directly under a pilaster. And you can see it's just naturally you shouldn't be able to do that with any piece of a 2x4.
And what causes that?
Well, get into wood science. The fibers, what we got there is just fiber bundles. The fiber bundles are held together by a biological glue called lignin. The way you make paper is you basically destroy all the lignin and only have the fibers left, and you make paper out of it.
Okay.
The stuff that makes wet rot and dry rot, those microbes, they eat lignin.
Okay.
And, basically we have the start of paper.
Okay.
Patito, coge una escobita, papi. Bájalo para abajo.
There's on the drawing.
Yep. And they well, now
So you're noticing that pooling water, and you're noticing on the plans that there was supposed to be a drain, right?
correct. And now my next question is, no roof is designed to hold water. So what's the condition of the decking under this roof? Which we don't want to find out till we get the backside dried in. We don't need to open up more than we need to at a time.
That's also right the spot where when the contractor pulled up all of his tile, he laid it all right there in one big humongous pile.
Oh,
Point load.
point load. He could have permanently deflected the trusses underneath.
Right now, this goes back. This is the least amount of water this house has. But right, I had it yesterday. I don't have it today, even though I got more water up there today than I did yesterday. It's so weird. Yeah, but it should.
It should be right in here. And it may be. Or maybe in that wall, you never know. Oh! I keep forgetting one of the features of this insulation.
Oh yeah, it'll hold the water.
That's much dry at least. I have done that.
This was all holding water when we came through. That's why we removed what we removed. And there was no signs of water on this part of the ceiling. But when we demoed that and started to come back, they were finding it continuing to be wet. Just being held by that. Water out from the building. Yeah. Now we're building a much modern structure with zero heat.
One of my clients.
So this is just a protective wall. As we are opening up the exterior sheathing, obviously we want to protect the interior from the rain and weather and
Let you go a little bit.